I'm Gustav von Schultess. I'm from Zurich, Switzerland. I am a retired professor at the University Hospital of Zurich. Used to be chair and director of nuclear medicine there. I have an extensive training. I am an MD and I'm a PhD in physics. I also am board certified nuclear physician and board certified radiology. I became Chief of Nuclear Medicine at the University Hospital of Zurich in 1988, first as acting chair and then 91 as professor. Spent 25 or 26 years in this position in total, and I'm retired now for almost a decade, so I'm old. And I still think I have some overview of the field, but I think I still see the woods and the trees I don't see anymore that much. Yeah, that's an interesting question, and you know, it shows the vagaries of a career. And I think my lesson is, you know, you don't have to be so directed. You know, things tend to come to you, and then you have to take the opportunities. But what happened is, I published in my last year of medical school, I published a paper on feedback and control in blood cells, and so I decided I wanted to be a hematologist. I went to the University of Zurich and became a resident in internal medicine, and I did 1.5 years of internal medicine, and I realized that I was, you know, older because of my PhD. I was 3 years older than most of my colleagues. And these colleagues knew all the differential diagnoses, and I didn't know them, because as a physicist, I studied medicine a different way. I said, if I know the 3 most important diagnoses, then I'm up to 95%. And so I decided, because of that blood relation which I built at the end of medical school, I said, I'm going to go into nuclear medicine, because there you can label cells and you can sort of look at cellular dynamics. And I went into, so I started in nuclear medicine with actually a very, very difficult boss. And after 1.5 years, I couldn't stand that anymore, but I got a position as junior staff very early on in St. Gallen. And then, you know, so I was eventually board certified in nuclear medicine, but then MR came around. And somebody came to me and said, look, you're an MD, but you're also a PhD in physics, and MR requires a lot of physics, and we would like you to, we would like you to get into MR at the University Hospital of Zurich. So eventually the government said, Schultess, we're going to get you, and they paid me a staff position for 1 year. They said, you can do whatever you want, but when you come back, you know MR. Yeah. Okay. So I went to UCSF for training for a year, came back, and then there was a change in the chair of department, and he said, we need somebody in nuclear medicine. You know, we need somebody to run nuclear medicine, and you are the only one I have, and I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to look that you're going to do okay. And so I said, well, I'm going to try. So I did that, and it turned out that, you know, he liked me, and I guess I performed decently well, and so eventually I got this position. But I always had the right, you know, I said, but I don't want to leave MR, so I want to stay in MR. He says, no problem, you can continue to do MR and, you know, do the functional stuff in MR and do nuclear medicine. So I'm a functional imager, so to speak. And so that was essentially my career, but it was a little haphazard. You know, I think the key is that you just, you know, why did I study physics? It's because of my father-in-law, who was a professor of physics. But at the end, you know, you have all these bricks, and then you listen to other people, and suddenly your career starts to build. Because it was obvious that with a PhD in physics, the best place would be in medical imaging. Could have been anesthesia was interesting a little bit. Intensive care was interesting because you had a lot of data there. But so I'm very happy, You know, medical imaging was really, really interesting from about 1980 until 2015, as I feel. Now we're sort of in the age of molecular things. And the great thing about nuclear medicine now is that nuclear medicine is the only molecular imaging method. You know, it's the MR people tell you 500 times they're molecular imagers. It's not really true. I mean, we can inject garbage into the patient and follow the garbage and make interesting conclusions. I would think it would be important to have some basic science background. I mean, it is useful to, you know, understand something about biochemistry, mathematics, informatics, physics. It's very helpful if you want to dig deeper. I mean, but you know, you have a wide spectrum. If you want to be a clinical person, then I think you should go in the direction of molecular oncology. You know, nuclear medicine and radiology, typically they don't see the patient, so the patient interaction is, I always say, you don't go into nuclear medicine or radiology if the patient care is at the top of your, you know, the daily exchange with a person is relevant. Well, that's a little difficult to say, but you know, I have a startup and I'm involved in a startup, and we concluded that copper-61 as a radioisotope is going to be a very, very favorable tracer. If you look at the future and you say, we're going to have 10 different tracers which we can apply in a human, the logistics is going to be impossible unless we have kit ability like we have in conventional nuclear medicine. And kit ability means you have a chelating molecule. And it turns out, so the first experiments which we have done on humans is that the copper-61 based tracers, which we have PSMA, we have somatostatin, these tracers work quite well. And the nice thing is, you know, in the morning you deliver a bottle of copper chloride, and then you have your whatever, and you mix, so you're sort of back in the old age of nuclear medicine. You can plan your schedule in a very elegant way. But you know, the proof of the pudding is out there.